Thank you for joining us today. Welcome to a holistic approach to online marketing. My name is Joey Donovan Gaido, and I'll be your host for the next hour, talking about everything from websites to social media and a whole lot more. So before we get started, I just kind of want to give you guys a little bit of a lay of the land of webinars on air, because I really like answering questions as they come up whenever possible. So you guys are going to notice in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, you should see a little gray dialog box. And that dialog box, if you go ahead and click on it, is going to enable your chat. Okay, and once you do that, the whole right side of your screen should be a grayish bar, and you can go ahead and type any questions or comments you might have right in the bottom of that area. Okay, I'm going to leave chat open for the entire hour, and I will check in pretty much at the end of each section to see who's got questions. And again, my name is Joey Donovan Gaido, and I run a company called Cup SEO. We do web design for companies of all sizes, as well as search engine optimization, a lot of blogging services, also consulting on just helping people figure out what's going on with their website, doing some website assessments and things like that. So let's get started, first of all, by looking at the title of this webinar, a holistic approach to online marketing. What does that mean? And the best example I can give you guys is if you think about when you go to the doctor. Let's say you're just not feeling well, okay? You see the doctor and he says, okay, let me look at your left arm, but only your left arm. It's not a very good doctor, right? And you're not going to get very good treatment if the doctor looks at you as one piece. So just like the doctor has to look at you holistically as a whole person, we need to look at our online marketing efforts in the same way. So the way I've got today's webinar laid out is from a beginning to end approach, start to finish, in the exact order that you guys need to look at your online marketing. We don't want to put the cart before the horse. You know, if we do some of these things first and then try and retrofit them into what should have come first, it just is a waste of time, money, and it usually never comes out as well as if we'd have done it right to begin with. So let's start off with your website, okay? Any business, even if it's a sole proprietor, needs a website, right? But it doesn't just end there. We've got to take a look at some specific things on our website, the beginning point of our online marketing, to make sure it's set up correctly. The first thing I want to share with you guys is about the actual content on your website, whether it's visuals, video, and of course the actual words on the page. You want to make it about them, your visitors, not you. So all of your copy, all of your efforts need to be benefit-driven and addressing the client's pain points. So as an example, a lot of times people will come to me and say, you know, I've got this website, it was never optimized, I don't understand it, and I need help. So that's a pretty big pain point for many of my customers. So I do my best to write blog posts, to write web pages that address that pain point. So before we even have a conversation, there's a trust factor built, and we're also giving some good and relevant information to those people, okay? We also want to make sure our website is mobile friendly. And you guys may or may not be aware, it's been over 6 months now, where April of 2015, Google rolled out their mobile friendly initiative, which essentially takes a look at your website and grades it, pass, fail, to make it simple. Is it mobile friendly or not? So if you guys take a look at the screenshot on the left, that is absolutely not mobile friendly, which you might imagine, right? We've got a ton of stuff going on in the left-hand navigation, which you can't see. This is approximately the size of an iPhone 6. So this is an actual screen size. And you've got all this other stuff going on screen that you've got no idea what to do. Very bad user experience, incredibly non-mobile friendly. In comparison, on the right is one of Cuppa SEO's subpages, which of course is mobile friendly. So here we've got a very nice, clean aesthetic. We know where we are, we know what our options are, and we can read the copy without having to squint. So mobile friendly, we're going to talk a little bit later how you guys can test to make sure your site is mobile friendly. All right. Another thing we need to keep in mind for our website is to make sure it's optimized. And search engine optimization, in a nutshell, from a very high level, is the use of optimal keywords and keyword phrases that are implemented into your page content, both on page, things you can see, and things that you can't see, like image names and things like that. SEO also consists of well-written, relevant, useful content. So both of those factors go together on your website to make your SEO better. And this is just a quick overview. Don't worry about remembering all this. I just want to give you guys an idea of the 6 main areas, or the key areas, that search engine optimization needs to be implemented. We're not going to talk today about how to do search engine optimization, because that would be a 5 to 10 hour webinar to teach it to you guys the right way. But I do want you to have an understanding of what it is, because a lot of times you might go to a web designer and they say they do SEO, but they don't really know how to do SEO because they're web designers. So at least now you'll know if your site is currently optimized or not well. The number one here at the top of the page is your title tag. That needs to be optimized. Number 2 is your H1, or your page headline. Also needs to be optimized with keyword phrases. Number 3, and also below it, you'll see another H3, what's in a keyword report, as well as optimizing your website content. Those are both H3s. 4 is obviously your image. This is a critical spot that most SEO professionals leave non-optimized, which is kind of shocking to me every time I see it. Number 5 is your body copy. And number 6 is your text link. In this case, contact Cuppa SEO to discuss your SEO needs further. So those are the 6 areas that you guys are going to want to implement SEO into on your website. A lot of this carries over and is very similar on your blog as well. Same 6 key areas. And I'm just going to check in and see if anybody, oops, sorry guys. I'm going to see if anybody has some questions before we move forward. And just keep in mind today, we're going to be going through a lot of different topics and aspects. And this is not something you're going to walk away knowing how to do it all. It's more for you to walk away and know what you need to do in the order that you need to do it. So moving on from the most dense page we'll cover today, let's talk about user experience. Some of you may have heard the term user experience, but I'll give you a brief definition in case you haven't. User experience is exactly what it sounds like. It's the experience a human being has either online, on a website, on a blog, or in real life. And I call the real life experiences analog user experiences. And if you're interested in learning more about UX, you can go to my blog. I've written quite a few articles about analog user experience as well as online user experience. And this is a critical factor that a lot of web design teams don't have a lot of knowledge base in, but it really can affect how successful your website is. Okay? So think of it like this, any experience you have in the store, going to buy a product, could be a shoe store, could be the Apple store, could be the supermarket. That's a user experience. When you go to a web page and easily find what you're looking for, it's a positive user experience. And if you're just sitting there scratching your head and you wind up leaving because you don't even know where you wound up, that's a pretty bad user experience. This is Dollar Shave Club, and it's one of the very best user experience examples you can find. Not just their website, but their email campaigns. Everything they do is extremely user-friendly, extremely well thought out. One good way to define user experience is to think about how hard are you making your customer think? And if they don't have to think at all, that's really good UX. So in this case, we're going to start off on the top of the page and just look at the navigation. Okay. So we've got $4 Shave Club. We've got the menu. We've got our blades. We've got our products. We've got gift, how it works, reviews, account, and box, which is once you have an account, you have a box of gear that gets sent to you every month. But your navigation must be crystal clear. We don't want to be cutesy or metaphorical here. We want to be as precise and as clear as possible. All right. This is not the place for your writer to be going to town on creativity. Okay. So this is a really good example of a home page that has really good user experience. You see your navigation is very clear, and you have two options on this page. I can either watch a video. So if I don't know the product, that might tip me to want to make a purchase. And if I do, right next to it, I've got a great shave for a few bucks. No commitment, no fees, no BS. Do it. Very good call to action. Very clear UX. This is a screenshot of Dollar Shave Club of one of their sub pages. And you can see here again, very clean. You know exactly what you are and what you're doing. You're choosing your blades. And you have three options. Super simple. I click on the button or select the button for the choice that I want most, and I'm done. Excellent user experience. And if you think back to a couple of slides previous, when we looked at that non-mobile friendly site with all that stuff going on, you can see how if Dollar Shave Club had 50 different options of blades without clear descriptions or clear call to action buttons, it could get really confusing really fast. So simplicity really helps the user experience elevate. Here's another example of good UX. This is the Cup SEO homepage on the mobile site. So we've got a nice picture that fits well into the confines of a mobile device. Headline, a little bit of copy, and we've got one full call to action showing. And then we also have a second call to action partially showing there. So the call now button is actually a call to action I've been testing just to see if people are more comfortable picking up the phone and getting in touch with me as opposed to filling out a contact form. I like doing tests. So here's your mobile homepage. Here's your mobile sub page. Again, very easy to read, very engaging, minimalist, mobile friendly, really good UX. But I wanted to show you guys images because now, even though we're only about 15 minutes into the webinar, you can get a really good idea of the aesthetic of what good UX is. And now you're going to start to notice it everywhere you look, which I don't know, I find that very interesting. Next up, we're going to talk about conversion. And for those of you who don't know what conversion essentially is when I come to a website, am I doing what the website owner wants me to do? So for some of those call to actions you saw there, let's talk about SEO, for example, on one of my products pages. If I'm doing a good job with my call to action, someone's going to click on it and actually fill out the form. That's called conversion. One of my clients is a dental office. They have actually 9 dental offices throughout Madison, Verona, and Middleton. So the call to action there is to actually call them, pick up the phone and make a call and make an appointment. So our conversion there is looking at where did we put our call to action on the page and how many people are actually calling us, let's say maybe in December of 2015 after we implemented our conversion tactics, as opposed to how many people called us in December of 2014 before we did this. All right. So with conversion, there's some pretty simple things you can do to get really big positive results. Back to Dollar Shave Club. You can place your call to action, also referred to as a CTA, as an acronym, in a prominent place. All right, so you see here, do it is kind of toward the lower right-hand region of this page, but it's large, easy to see, and the page is uncluttered. This is actually not the most optimal place for a call to action. Okay, the most optimal place for a call to action is going to be almost dead center of a web page. So in this case, kind of almost right, we see where the clock is, where it says Dollar Shave Club in the video. Our blades are bleeping great. Then we've got a little clock and a little feed icon there. Right around that area, just to the left of where it says Toyota, that's your sweetest spot that you can find. But the problem is not every website is built, not every aesthetic is it optimal to put it there. I have another dental office that I work with, and they're coming to me for some help with UX. And it's interesting because they've got their button in a spot that's in the perfect spot, but it looks non-optimal because it's covering up some important information on the photo. So, but in this instance, we've got do it in the lower right. And before we move to the next slide, I want to give you guys a little bit more insight into user experience and conversion and where you want to think about putting the important stuff on a web page. So, for instance, right here with Dollar Shave Club, we've got this gentleman standing here with his tie, and just to his right, imagine that we draw the letter F starting from his right all the way from bottom to the top of the page, and then we come across from left to right to complete the F. All right, so this is your hot zone. The left side of the web page, and then near your navigation, and maybe about 1 inch to 2 inches below your navigation. So in this case, the sweetest spots that are getting hit are the video and the headline that says a great shave. The do it button, again, is a little bit out of that sweet spot zone, but it's still okay. What you have to think about when you're optimizing the user experience is this still representing my business and my website well? We don't want to do something that's a best practice if it interferes or becomes clunky with who we are. What's important is knowing the rule and then deciding as well, this rule right now, is it going to work for me or against me? And Dollar Shave Club, which again is one of the best experiences that you can have on a website. You see they've made an addendum and they've moved their call to action a little bit over. Here we have a couple of other examples of CTAs again. And we've seen these pages before, but I want you guys to start to get familiar with the different layers that can be worked on a single page. All right, so we're looking at mobile friendly, we're looking at good UX, and now we're looking at very clear, easy to find call to actions. Again, on my mobile homepage, call now or get optimized and get found, right? All before you have to scroll. That's super important. We don't want people to have to do anything but look at what we present to them. You know, think of it like a meal. You go to Lombardino's. A lot of the participants today are from Madison, so you probably know Lombardino's. And imagine that there's two ways they could present the food to you. One is serve it to you and it looks beautiful, which is what they usually do, or they can serve it to you with a napkin on top, which is going to be a better presentation and user experience. You get the idea. On the right-hand side, where you see the macro shot of coffee beans, let's talk about web design is my call to action there. And again, it sits above the fold or needing to scroll. All right. The reason why that's important is users are so accustomed these days to just clicking on a button to take them to the next step. You know, it used to be, even as little as 4 or 5 years ago, it used to be you'd have a text link. Now it's buttons. And what's really easy to do, which is also very effective, is place your buttons, your call to actions, in a place that doesn't need to be scrolled to. And it's the same thing on a desktop version, just like we've got going here. We don't have to scroll to click on do it. And it's the same kind of philosophy on a subpage. Even on my web design and SEO packages subpage, I've got that button in the same spot. So if somebody's read those 2 paragraphs and feels like, wow, you know what? I just want to work with this guy. I'm ready. Well, go ahead, click the button. If not, they can scroll down and get more information. So hopefully that makes sense. For those of you that have joined a little bit late, before we continue, there is a button in the upper left-hand corner of your screen, which is your chat button. And I keep chat buttons open, chat open the entire time. If you guys have a question, go ahead and type it into chat, and I'll be happy to address it. Right now it looks like, hey, Gregory, I've got your note here that you lost the audio. So probably the best thing for you to do if you haven't gotten it back yet is to actually shut down Chrome or whatever, Safari, whatever you're browsing in, go back to your email and jump back in, start fresh. And I'm going to type this to you now as well. Okay, sorry guys. Oh, you're back. Awesome. I just finished typing, Gregory. All right. So if anybody else has questions or comments, go ahead and type them up there. So how you guys doing so far? We're covering a lot of stuff. And we're going to move on next. As you saw, you took a peek there at blogging. Okay, blogging is the next step in the process, not social media. I get this a lot. Well, what do I do with my social media? First thing I do is I say, well, stop, hold on for a second. Are you blogging? Because if you're not blogging, social media will not be as effective, nearly as effective as it can be. All right. So with blogging, which can be and feel very intimidating to people, there are a few best practices that you can follow. Okay. We actually do a Blogging 101 workshop that is an hour-and-a-half long. So if you're feeling intimidated or kind of like you'd like to get your feet a little bit more wet before you start blogging, just go to cupseo.com and look under the webinars tab and sign up for the next one. I do them pretty much quarterly, every 3 or 4 months. So they're always around a couple times a year, at least. So blogging. What the heck do I write about? That's the first question that I get from people all the time. And the simple answer is write about what you know. You are an expert at what you do. Whether you're an SEO expert, whether you are an IT expert, whether you're running a candy shop, there are things that you know about that the common person doesn't know. Okay? Share those things. Share, maybe, say you are a candy shop, but you only sell organic candy. All right. So there's no trans fat. There's no high fructose corn syrup. There's only organic cane sugar. Things like this. Talk about why that's important, why that's healthier, why it's a benefit. Because you know what? All of us that are parents, I think we'd all be happy to spend a little bit more on candy if it's organic. And to give you a real life example, I only buy jelly beans from Whole Foods and Willie Street for my boys. One, because they're a little bit healthier, but the biggest reason is they have no artificial colors, and my kids are allergic to artificial colors. So you get the idea. Writing what is almost commonplace to you can be very insightful and very relevant to your readers. So how often should I blog? And as you can see, at least one time a week is my answer. 3 times a week is ideal. And I've done work for customers where I've blogged for them 3 times a week, and it really exponentiates the kind of traffic that they get. But let's be realistic. Even large businesses with dedicated writers have a lot on their plate. So the 1 time per week rule is there in place because it works, but you have to be consistent. If you blog once a week for 3 months and then stop for 3 months, you are going to see a drop in traffic. What happens is Google is looking for freshness on your website. And any SEO guy who says to you, hey, we want to keep freshening up your content on your website, like your actual web pages and how we're optimizing them, that's not a good idea. That's actually counterproductive. It's almost like changing your phone number every 30 to 60 days. And then I call you because you're my massage therapist, and I call you and your number's been changed and now I can't even find you. Changing content on web pages is usually something that you don't want to do unless you change a product or service. Then go right ahead. Or if you've hired somebody like Cup SEO and you said, we're not optimized. I feel like I'm a clunky writer. Can you help me? Can you rewrite this? Then sure, let's do it. Let's make it awesome. Let's optimize every nook and cranny. Let's make that copy shine and connect with the people who are coming to that page and engage with them. Okay? But so then the question is, if I'm not changing my web pages all the time, how do I get this freshness factor? It's with your blog. Every time you blog, Google sees that as fresh content and gives your entire website more credibility, or what I like to call buoyancy and authority. All right. So think of it like a life raft in the ocean. If it's half inflated, it might stay afloat. Part of it might be underwater. Excuse me. Or it might be submerged if it's not inflated enough. And that's kind of how natural results work on search engines like Google. If your website is metaphorically 80% deflated because it's not optimized and it doesn't have relevant content, you're going to wind up on page 8, 9, or 10 if you're lucky. But with this fresh, relevant content, it's like pulling up the raft, and it elevates, it literally rises you up in search engine results. But there's one thing to keep in mind with your blog. Let's say you write a blog. Let's say you've taken the Blogging 101 workshop and you're ready to go. You're going to start tomorrow. A word of caution. You want to make sure your blog is a sub-page, not a subdomain. And I know this is a little bit geeky, which I like. I like geeky stuff, but not everybody does. So what I'm essentially saying to you here is if your website is a sub-page, it's going to look like the example here, www.yourwebsiteurl.com/blog. Okay? It's going to look just like any other sub-page would look on your website, /blog. If you've had somebody add your website and it looks like the second option here, the subdomain option, www.blog.your. And you've got all your stuff in that warehouse, and then the trucks are somewhere else. There's a huge disconnect, is what I'm trying to say. And then you wind up with a blog that's actually competing with your website as opposed to supporting and feeding your website. So again, subpage versus subdomain. Sorry, I have to get geeky at least a couple of times during a webinar. So here we see, again, we're bringing back user experience and conversion. Just to take a quick look at it here on the blog. This is one of Cup SEO's UX blog posts. And this is a pretty nice way to set up your blog, okay? And don't worry about memorizing this. You can always come to the Cup SEO blog and look at this anytime. But just some of the components or the hierarchy of this page include, right up at the top, we've got a headline, the mobile-friendly user experience. And of course, this is all optimized. And then on the left, we've got some content. On the right, we've got our image. The reason why the image is on the right is because you don't have to worry about content breaking funny if the image is on the right. I actually prefer imagery on the left because when somebody comes to the blog, remember we talked about with user experience and conversion, that left-hand side of your page is one of those hot spots in that F zone, right? In the F zone. So I like that image to be there because then it engages with somebody visually right away. They don't have to read anything yet. But then what winds up happening is you have weird sentence breaks, paragraph breaks. If you've got someone who's viewing your web page at a higher or smaller resolution than you use, it can just look really weird. And once it looks weird, either consciously or subconsciously, that viewer has just knocked you down a couple of pegs. So your credibility can suffer from that. So that's why, long story, why the image is on the right. Okay. You guys will see all the way on the right-hand side here of this blog post. You've got recent posts, you've got recent comments, and above that, you've got a search box. All important things, and there are options on a blog where you can put different widgets. These are all widgets in different order. So maybe you want to have, instead of your recent blog posts, maybe you want to lead with your top blog posts or lead with your comments or things like that. But anyway, this is what it should look like. Okay. Next up, we're going to talk about social media. But I want to take just a second to check in, see how everybody's doing. All right, there we go. Hopefully you guys didn't lose me. I think we might have had a little drop off there. So if anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them now. I'm going to try and leave about 10 minutes at the end in case you have questions. So there's no stress either. And speaking of stress, at this point, you're probably saying, wow, this is a lot of stuff. How am I going to do all this? And we're going to discuss this a little bit more later, but really the answer is simply one step at a time, starting with your website. Think of this like a pizza. If you pick up, I don't know if you guys have been to Rossi's Pizza over in Monona. That's pretty cool. They've got a video arcade next to it. So we like to go there with the kids and play video games like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man, and then we'll have some pizza. But think about if you get a 14-inch pizza and try and eat the whole thing at one time. I don't care who you are. It's not going to be a good scenario. We've got to cut that pizza up and eat it one step at a time, one piece at a time, and actually really one bite at a time. Okay? And that's true of goals in general. And that's all this is. It's just goals to improve your online marketing. So I just don't want you to feel like, wow, I've got to finish this webinar today and get all this done by Friday. That's not realistic. Do one step at a time. Do it really good. Do it to the best of your ability. And if you can't handle it because you're too busy, get the right people in place. And it takes as long as it takes. Okay? And if you've got a small budget, stretch it out to keep yourself on budget. It's better to have it done in 6 months right than to hire somebody who really doesn't know what they're doing and it's done in a month and you've just wasted money. Anyway, that's my 2 cents. So let's take a look at social media now. Social media is probably the most intimidating part of this process to people. And it's not because it's the most important, and it's not because it's the most difficult. It's because everybody hears, every business owner hears over and over, man, you got to be on social media. You got to be on Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest. Every other day, something else is popping out of the corner saying, hey, look at me. I'm a new social media that you should be on. And it's overwhelming, right? But let's think about this for a minute. We have gone from optimizing our website, ensuring that it has a good user experience, ensuring that it's set up for good conversion. We've started that blog, and now we're ready to do social media. And it probably makes sense to you guys why now is the right time, because as we drive people to our website or our blog, there's something really awesome for them to check out. All right. One of the biggest mistakes new people to social media make is they say, well, I've something. So they find a cool article. Let's say they're a chiropractor. They find a cool article or two on their affiliation website, right? Or their accreditation website. And so they share it. How to relieve back pain in 10 easy steps or something like that. And then they say this and they link somebody to somebody else's website. Think about that. Think about, let's say you're a retail shop and somebody walks into your store. And let's say you sell toasters, right? Okay. Someone comes in and says, I need a toaster. And you say, well, you know what? There's this really awesome toaster down the block in that other store. You would never do that, right? Never, ever. So if you didn't sell toasters, you might. But if you do sell toasters, keep them in the store. And it's the same concept here. Keep them in the virtual building of your website, of your blog. All right? But think about it. You've got your website content optimized. It's written well. It's relevant. You've got some blog posts going. Now your social media has something to talk about. Go ahead and write a blog post and then share an overview of that blog post on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, whatever social media platform is right for you. You can even repurpose one blog post. Let's say your blog post is about, let's say it was about top 10 ways to alleviate back pain. You could literally do a social media post, probably on Facebook. If you're a chiropractor, you're probably looking to attract end users that are business to consumer. You could literally do one blog post and then do 10 social media shares. Each social media share highlighting one of the top 10 ways to alleviate back pain. It's that simple. All right. But first you got to write the blog post. So let's take a look at an example of the two forms of social media. You guys see in my incredibly high-tech sketch here, social media is broken into two main areas. The first one, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest, and so on. That is for us to connect with human beings. It's for us to connect with actual people, right? The other side of that fence is Google Plus and Google My Business. And although Google Plus and Google My Business, which are kind of just tied together, if you're using one, as long as you have a Google My Business page and a Google Plus page, they kind of talk to each other and are intertwined. But those are for SEO. Nobody likes, think about it. Do you like using Google Plus? You're probably saying absolutely not. Nobody likes using Google Plus. And a lot of people feel that Google My Business is forced on them. Google My Business is actually a really good tool that you can use if you're a local business to help you get local leads. And there's a webinar for that too. So if you're confused about what Google My Business is, sign up for that webinar and things will become a lot more clear. So the way this works is when you post something on Facebook or Twitter, it's connecting with people It's broadening your reach, maybe to people you don't know, especially if you're advertising. But it doesn't have a lot of SEO value. It's got about 20% of the SEO value of all social media. Okay. Google My Business and Google Plus is 80% of the SEO value. Google's looking there and saying, well, are they using our platform? Let's face it, Google's self-grandizing themselves, right? But you know what? We can either be mad at them or we can use it to our advantage. And I am certainly going to use it to my advantage and help you use it to yours. Because what that means is more customers, more revenue, and really, most importantly, you get to help more people with what you do, which is awesome. Everybody wins. So whatever you do on Facebook and Twitter, you can just go ahead and share on Google My Business as well, on Google Plus. You're going to want to be optimizing this, okay, with SEO, just like with the website, just like with the blog. And you're also going to want to think about user experience and conversion. I've got two examples here of posts that I published for today's webinar. The one on the left was on LinkedIn. The one on the right was on Facebook. And obviously they look extremely, extremely similar. That was on purpose. But what you guys need to know is that every social media platform interprets your images differently. So you've got to know what size to start with. So for instance, for the image on the right, for Facebook, I could put a square there if I want, and it's going to look beautiful on Facebook's desktop or mobile app. No problem. But if I put a square image on LinkedIn, it's going to cut parts of it off. And any of you that use LinkedIn, I'm sure you've seen this dozens of times. An image that's just cropped in a weird spot, you don't know what the heck it is, and most likely you move on, right? So just doing a little testing, or a lot of photo editors now will actually say LinkedIn, Facebook, Pinterest. It'll actually have an option to size it that way. So what we've got going on here, though, if you guys see, it's the same ad. So look at either one. We've got a headline, right? That's a good user experience. I've got a headline on its own line. So it's easy to really quickly determine what is this about. Again, it goes back to that don't make me think philosophy, right? This is online marketing demystified. So I'm either sitting there saying, well, I know a lot about online marketing. That's cool, but I don't need it. Or I say, oh my gosh, I am so confused. And I read more. Got a little bit of copy, not a lot. We really want to try and avoid the more that you sometimes see that you have to click on LinkedIn or on Facebook. We want to try and observe a character count to stay within the confines of. So you wind up being seen completely and not being an ellipsis. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. And then we've got the image there, and the image, just like in our website and on our blog, we want to optimize that image with really good keyword phrases that are relevant, not just stuffed in there, but something that actually makes sense to the search engines and to somebody who might be looking to see what that image is called. And that might sound like kind of a little bit of a weird thing, but there are people who actually depend on images to be named accurately. And these are usually individuals who have some kind of a disability. It could even be somebody who has a visual impairment that they've got their screen really large, and they really can't see too much, but they can see where their pointer is, and then they wind up hovering over the image, and it tells them 23685.jpg, and they go, huh, I have no idea what that image is. Google says the same thing. But if the image is named A Holistic Approach to Online Marketing, a CUPPA SEO webinar, now that person gets good value from that image. And so does Google. Google loves that. So we really want to think about It's basic stuff. It's like going to an art museum and saying, does this look good? Does it make sense aesthetically? Does it feel like it's something that I can easily digest, like a small slice of pizza? Or does it look like a big mess? It's going to give me a upset stomach if I continue to try and read it. All right. So, and these things will start to become second nature to you. It can be a little bit daunting at first, especially if you're uncomfortable on these platforms to begin with. So again, I want to go back to SEO because it threads through all of this stuff, okay? It is affecting your website, your blogging, and your social media efforts. Search engine optimization in and of itself gives Google a better user experience because it's helping them figure out who you are and what you do. But it's not really part of the user experience or the conversion pie, at least not directly. Okay, it's more to get people to show up on your website. And what we want there really is we want them to show up on your website because that's where they want to be. So with search engine optimization, one of the things you need to do is figure out what keywords are relevant to the people who search for what you do. And that's not the easiest thing to do for someone who isn't an SEO expert, but it's super important. Then once you figure those out, you need to know, well, where do I put them? And we looked at that a little bit earlier on, right? We had those 6 main regions where those keyword phrases need to go. So, but when we use these keyword phrases and we figure out which ones are the best ones for us, and there's a lot of contingencies that come into play to figure that out, then when someone searches for something like SEO in Madison, I come up. Or if they search for a dentist, Madison, and that's what you do, you come up. Okay, so we are letting Google connect the right user to the right website. And that's ultimately all Google wants to do. Everything they do revolves around connecting people to the most relevant, most important content that they can. So you see, if you think about way back in the beginning of this webinar, when we first started, we talked about making it all about the visitor, making it all about your customer, their pain points, their problems, and showing them the benefits of what you do or what you sell and how that can help them solve a problem. Google's looking for that. That's part of the SEO equation. So what I'm going to do now is give you guys an opportunity, if you need help with a keyword report, you guys can go ahead and click on the offer that I just placed on screen. There's no pressure, but I do want to, as a thank you, offer a lowered rate, a little bit of a discount for you guys for joining us today for this webinar. What's really nice about an SEO report or a keyword report is that you use it on your website, you use it on your blog, you use it in your social media. It kind of becomes your playbook, right? Just like the Packers, they've got a playbook that they have to memorize, and then they've kind of got their cheat sheet, right? The quarterback, at least, on his wrist, and they can call their plays. It's the same thing with this. Once you have this in your possession, it's your playbook. And it's going to work for months, most likely years. It's not like we're going to have to create a new one every 2 months. Anyway, no pressure, but if it's something you're interested in, please get in touch. We can talk about it further at no obligation. So, with that being said, we've got about 10 minutes left. And I do want to cover a couple of more items with you guys. We already talked about the one step at a time philosophy, but I wanted to give you a little bit of insight as to how you can take it one step at a time and also track your progress without getting overwhelmed. Treat all of this, your website, your blog, your social media, your user experience, your conversion. Treat it as a campaign, okay? Start off with your website, work your way to your blog, to your social media, incorporating good user experience and conversion into each aspect. Actually, literally just make a list. And when the list is made, make sure it's in the proper order, and then create a hierarchy within each subgroup: websites, blog, social media, and in order of importance. Now, all you have to do is tackle one thing at a time, and that list will dwindle down one item at a time. The great thing about having it on paper is that you won't forget. It's a good reminder, and you also have the satisfaction of crossing something off. So, and this has been proven that it helps people when they write stuff down, or in this case, type it, since we are in such a digital age. So I've got a few questions that you guys can address after the webinar, and I will send these to you in my thank you email tonight or tomorrow morning. So you don't have to worry about writing them down, but you can if you like. But these are 3 easy action steps to address today, preferably, to help you figure out where you stand with your online marketing. The first question: is your website mobile friendly? And if you're sitting there saying, heck, I don't know if mine's exactly mobile friendly. I know you showed me those pictures, Joey, but I would love it if Google gave us a free test to check, which of course they did. So what you have to do is just go to Google and search for mobile friendly test. And the first link that comes up should be their mobile friendly test, and it'll explain how to just literally cut and paste a homepage URL, and then cut and paste your subpage URL in there, and Google will test it for you and tell you if you've passed or failed. But really all you need to do is look, and if it looks like some of the positive examples I showed you earlier, it's probably mobile friendly. If it's not, talk to your web developer and find out what it's going to take to make it mobile friendly, because Google is going to ping you if it's not. It's going to be a detriment. Second question: how is the user experience on your site? Again, take a look at desktop and mobile. Assess it. Give yourself a grade, A through D. Nobody gets an F, okay? A through D. Ask some other people. Ask colleagues, coworkers, your kids, if they've got a good eye, for this kind of stuff. Ask them, what do you think of this? Does it look like it's easy to use? The third question is, do you have a clear call to action, at least on your homepage? If you don't, start developing one. All right. And really the best way to create a call to action is to think about what is the top 80% of your business. What is it that you do most? What do people ask for most? Make that to call to action. Okay. And test it. So with that, we are just about done. I want to check out and see if you guys have any questions for me. Looks like not, but we do have 6 minutes, guys. So if you have questions, just please feel free to type in. If you did arrive late, there's a button in the upper left-hand corner of your screen that looks like a little dialogue bubble. Go ahead and click on that, and then you should get a chat bar on the right. Go ahead and ask your questions. And if you don't ask your questions now, you can always go ahead and shoot me an email. I'm always happy to have a cup of coffee, which many of you guys already know. I'm always happy to have some coffee. In fact, I'll be having some in about 20 minutes. So, yeah, we covered everything in a very short amount of time. And I hope that this was helpful for you and that you found it insightful. But what I really want to do is focus on you taking some action now and looking at those 3 questions and doing an assessment. because you know what? You'll find something. There's always something. And working on it is going to bring you good, positive results. And now you know what to look for. So it doesn't look like we have any questions. So with that, thank you so much, Gregory. My pleasure. Thank you for tuning in and for signing in a second time after you lost the audio. But yeah, good to meet you virtually. So I'm going to take a minute just to thank you guys very much for joining this Cup SEO webinar. Again, I like to do them monthly. Most of them are free. If you'd like to join us for another one, just go to cupseo.com, click on the webinars link, and pick what you like. Thank you all so very much. I hope you have an awesome rest of the day, and stay warm out there, you Wisconsinites. Thanks again, guys. Have a great day.